welcome to the 2018 APTA National Championships presented by our national sponsors,
I'll get you later.
Viking, Sabertree, and Uline, and our local sponsors, Fields Automotive Group, Midwest Orthopedics at Rush, RBC Wealth Management, and Chicago Platform Tennis Charities. We are live at the Glenview Club in Gulf, Illinois on the APTA Network presented by eNet Live. I'm Jerry Viant along with Patty Hogan bringing you the women's final between the number 3 seeds Liz Cruz and Gabby Niculescu and the number 2 seeds and defending national champions Floor Hanisch and Annika van Starrenburg.
Nice tournament.
And Patty, what a spectacular day for the final here. Beautiful weather. The crowds are starting to swarm in now. You see the players coming onto the court.
And Jerry, it's so exciting here. I love finals and nationals of our championship of the sport.
It's a different vibe the whole weekend. And you see there's Liz Cruz and Gabby Niculescu on the court. And on come Annika and Flora. So Patty, while we're waiting here, why don't you talk a little bit about the players? Let's look at the draw and talk about their path to the finals.
Well, Jerry, I would love to talk about their path to the finals. And let's start with Hanisch and van Starrenburg because they are our defending national champions, and they pulled out an amazing third set tiebreaker over the local favorites, McNitt and Nuslot. They then came back on the court and battled it out in just as difficult match to pull out an amazing third set tiebreaker win over Delmonico and Guillot.
Saving match points in both of those matches. They had 2 match points against them in the quarterfinals and down a match point in the semifinals. So our co-announcer Lauren Mandel had named them Houdini for coming through. And then let's look at the other half of the draw.
So Cruz and Niculescu pulled out a really nice win over Curtis and Jaffe, 7-5, 6-4, as you can see on the screen, in the quarterfinals. They then only were in the early stages of the match against the local team, Lemery and Rohrbach, and unfortunately Suzanne Lemery went down with a leg injury, so Cruz and Niculescu had a walkover.
Let you know when there are 2 left.
Yeah, so do you think that's going to be a factor that Cruz and Niculescu kind of missed that semi-final match that kind of helped you mentally?
Jerry, what I think is they're really well rested here. They had a lot of time after that match. Van Starrenburg and Hanisch, had to dig as deep as they could go to figure out ways to pull out 2 wins yesterday. So I'll be curious, if they can come back here and feel, fresh. I think Liz and Gabby and Flor and Annika, the beginning of this tournament, we saw the draw, Jerry, and I think I know that I thought this could be the final that we were looking for. I thought that Doris and Shea, number 1 seeds, have not always, they haven't had success at the national championship. And Flor and Annika pulled it out last year and played so well. And so I thought they would get back here. And then Gabby and Liz are former national champions. They know what it takes to get here, and I think both teams are peaking at exactly the right time of the year.
Right, all 4 players have won this title, so they know what it takes to get the job done. And let's go around and point out where the players are on the court, Patty, and a little bit about each player's strengths so we know what we'll be looking for.
During the deuce court, we see the back of the red vest of Liz Cruz. Liz loves her 2-handed backhand, Jerry, and I think her lobbing actually in the quarterfinals was the difference, and it just set up Niculescu's forehand all day long against Jaffe and Rudloff. Out of the ad court, playing with that red paddle, the black vest, is Gabby Niculescu, and you're going to be amazed by the explosive overhead if you haven't seen Gabby play before. and really penetrating forehand drives that she seems to have raised her consistency with throughout this tournament. Really impressed with her play yesterday. On the other side, out of the deuce court, is Florentina Hanisch. She's wearing the white visor, and Flor is in a way a setup player, but not in a traditional sense, because she can bring the heat off her forehand and backhand, and she kind of looks for Starrenburg to come out of that ad court for her signature blitz play. And you know, out of the ad court is Annika van Starrenburg, and she's got the baseball cap with the black front, white back, and she is known as a supreme blitzer, one of the best in our sport, I would say. And she has that incredible two-handed backhand, Jerry, that she just seems to pull out that trigger on that shot in the moment of truth. And that's what I'm most impressed about with Van Starrenburg. It seems like in the heat of the moment, when everything is on the line, I feel like that's when her game elevates.
Well, that's right. That's what we saw yesterday. I mean, Flor Hanisch was able to bring the spark to the team when they were down and a little bit flat. And Flor ripped some two-handed backhands that got the energy going again, and then Annika van Starrenburg just came in and used that energy, and together they gelled again, and that was able to push them over the finish line. So let's look at the keys to winning for both teams. See the tactics that we think that each team should do here. So the Vikings' keys to winning. For Cruz and Niculescu, like you said, Patty, it's Niculescu's roller. If you haven't seen it before, she can hit it from behind the service line, which is no small feat. That's a very difficult shot, and she usually hits it hard right at the deuce court player.
The deuce court player has to be able to have the footwork to come up with that shot and just take off up that side screen. Jerry, their shot selection.
Good morning and welcome to the
back to Cruz and
2018
Niculescu, Jerry.
finals for the Women's National Platform Tennis Championships here at the Glenview Golf Club. On my left, from Bedford Corners,
That's
New
our
York,
umpire, Rob
Annika
Labune,
van
is just making the
Starrenburg,
introductions.
And her partner from Stamford, Connecticut, Flor Hanisch. And on my right, from Trumbull, Connecticut, Liz Cruz, and her partner from Norwalk, Connecticut, Gabby Niculescu. This will be a best 2 out of 3 set match. Tiebreakers at the end of the first and second set. Shannon, is there a tiebreaker open or for the third set? No tiebreaker for the third set played out.
Okay, Patty, pick it
So
up
let's
where
go
we
back
left
to the
off there.
keys to victory for Cruz Niculescu. Shot selection. They need to be really disciplined, Jerry. They have every shot in the book, but they really need to pick wisely when they're going to pull the trigger on shots and just not to get caught up in the speed of play and going too fast. And serving has been a little bit of a question mark for both Cruz and Niculescu. And, you know, with the ability that Van Starrenburg and Hanisch have to pounce on those return of serves, that's going to be a key for me, for Cruz and Niculescu to have success today.
Right. Okay, let's take a look at the keys to winning for Hanisch and Van Starrenburg.
Yeah, no, I wasn't planning on it. I just didn't know.
And then we've got blitzing and movement. Their game is all about creating havoc. They've really spent a lot of time drilling and understanding where each other needs to be on the court, because sometimes when you've got that kind of movement, if you're not covering each other, it causes too much confusion. But their key is all to blitzing and movement. Also the placement of their lobs, and we saw that yesterday in the semi-final, particularly Annika van Starrenburg really got grooved in picking that spot over the net player's left shoulder and causing a little bit of confusion. And then Flor Hanisch lobbing down the line. So if they can move those lobs around, you've got Niculescu's roller, Cruz's slash, so they've got to try to cause some confusion, because if they don't, they're going to have a barrage of spin overheads hit at them. And serving was a little bit of an issue. Both Flor and Annika have really good serves, but they got tight. But what impressed me, Patty, was they would fault or put in a little bit of a push serve, and then the next shot, boom, come up with this a big shot, like back to back. So I had mentioned their internal climate there was a little bit in flux, but they were able to pull it through.
Jerry, what's the head-to-head with these teams this season?
So Niculescu and Cruz have owned them. I think it's 3-love, and I don't think they've dropped a set to them. So going into this match, Niculescu, Cruz definitely have the advantage.
But Van Starrenburg and Hanisch are our defending national champions, and you know, we saw them last year just kind of, you know, find a way, and they proved it again yesterday. They find a way to win. And I'm really impressed with, they do play really as a disciplined team together. They're on the same page. You talked about all their keys to victory, and they are a team. They are united.
And I think Niculescu and Cruz have gone through a lot this season as far as court positioning. You know, we saw them switch sides in the back court. We've seen them switch sides at net. You know, we were a little bit surprised in Philly when they switched at net and they had Gabby Niculescu on the right for a bit, and then they kind of switched back. But Eye of the Tiger, and here I see all 4 players ready to go, and Floor Hanisch is going to serve.
Love.
And there's a nick serve right off the bat.
All.
So you see Floor Hanisch staying back. She didn't come in right away, which is out of respect for the returner.
(30-15).
And then you see Gabriela Niculescu is on the left, hitting that big roller.
I think their experiment in Philly is over, Jerry. Liz Cruz is going to be to the right at the net of Gabby, I think, most of this match.
And what it does with that
30
barrage of coming at you, I mean, you can catch up to it, you can handle it. Can you get a decent shot back that gets you out of trouble? It's not just a matter of getting your paddle on it, it's about having the control and the presence of mind to place it.
Jerry, I just want to know how Van Starrenburg can get that low. She's a tall girl. And Jerry, she does set up well below the level of the net. Why does she do that?
Yeah, she needs to keep, and that's been something that she's worked hard on, because like you said, it's not easy for her to get down that low, and that's one of the differences making the transition from a tennis overhead where you're hitting up high and snapping your wrist to letting that ball drop down low. And it's actually thinks of it as a shoulder high overhead, and that allows you to keep the ball deep in the court and lower in the screen.
40-30.
Jerry, I was also referring to how low she is. I mean, all around play, but when she's standing at that net, I've been watching her all tournament. I mean, Floor has an easy path to serve that ball in the box because Van Starrenburg stays so low.
And again, you see Hanisch giving up the net out of respect to the big return of Niculescu, because Niculescu can really hurt you with that first strike. And if you don't volley deep, you're going to get a second bigger ball right at you. So smart play to stay back and take away the target.
Jerry, one more shout out to John Noble and Shannon Vinson, our tournament co-chairs,
Yep, no worries.
plus their 200 volunteers who made this weekend so fun for all the players and the crowd.
Yeah, they had 124 men's teams and 96 women's teams playing this weekend. Gabby Niculescu serving.
Love 15.
And these first service games are always a little nerve-wracking, as we both know. Playing in a national championship final, it takes you a few games to settle down.
$15
And Niculescu's serve, Patty, talk about her grip and what that does to the ball that we just saw.
Well, Niculescu has worked on her serve really the last 2 years. She's moved her grip over to a continental grip to allow her to put a little bit of spin on the ball. And, you know, that ball bounces low there as a result of that spin, which is great because both Hanisch and Van Starrenburg love teeing off on that high bouncing ball.
30-15.
Yeah, so we saw that the ball stayed well below the level of the net, which makes it very tough for Van Starrenburg to strike and come in behind it.
And that's the
$30
daunting play that Van Starrenburg pulls out all the time, where she just moves forward and she's got a wingspan that is just almost can reach.
I like to say
The
it's like a
width of the court.
747 coming at you. It's like, where do you go?
$30-40.
I
And
think
the
that's going to be a
foot
key
speed.
in this match, Jerry, where Niculescu and Cruz end up bailing out on a ball. When they've been lobbed and are in trouble, you know, they have to be really careful to get the depth so it doesn't set up right there, Floor's forehand. She just crushed that.
Deuce.
It'll be interesting for me to see if Niculescu changes the pace with her roller. Because I think Hanisch and Van Starrenburg are so fast that they'll get a
Advantage,
rhythm if the
Miss
speed's the
Starrenburg.
same, and they'll be able to catch up with those balls. But I think if Niculescu changed the space a little bit, like we saw last night with Kerry Del Monaco, then you could get a wrong-footed move.
Jerry, I got to
Deuce.
follow Cruz and Niculescu's couple of matches yesterday, and I think that was the difference, exactly to your point, where Gabby seemed to vary the paces of her shots and just force some errors on key points out of Jaffe and Curtis.
All right, so you can see they're taking away the target. Niculescu is serving, and Liz Cruz, her partner, who is the deuce court player, is moving over. Everything's perfectly legal, so they're moving all the chess pieces around, countering each other's tactics.
Gabby did that yesterday a lot, Jerry, where she would serve, almost show that they were going to both stay back and then kind of sneak in to kind of just test the return that way. Little I formation.
Nice deep lob by Liz Cruz. Got to watch that spot there because Liz Cruz loves to drive her backhand off the back screen, and she can hold it and disguise it.
Another thing I'll look for out of Cruz in that deuce court, Jerry, to see if she can cut off some balls off the deck. I think sometimes she ends up playing a little deep and allows the overheads from her opponent, particularly, coming in a diagonal from her across court, to go in, and almost lets her opponents off the hook.
Advantage, Miss Niculescu.
I just think when you can hit those little bit of chip shots off your, occasionally, it just takes time away from the net team.
Deuce.
And there's Van Starrenburg kind of sweeping in there, and I think that's where Cruz and Niculescu at that moment are going to have to stay on their backhand volleys, and I think Liz has to stay closer to the line on the right. She sort of followed Annika a little bit to the middle and then really exposed her vulnerable right side.
Advantage, Miss Van Starrenburg.
Well, that's a nice deep lob cross court by Flor Hanisch.
See, Cruz and Niculescu got caught, out of their side of the court, and they were in no rush to go back.
You see now they're changing back, putting Liz back up to net against Flor Hanisch, so changing the look.
Advantage, Miss Niculescu.
So you can see the level of intensity and concentration that you have to have at this level. Every single point is important. They've got to have their head in the game, know what the tactic is, and then know where to be on the court with their partner.
Yep.
Great play by Niculescu to run that ball down.
And you can see
Gain,
both
Cruz,
players,
Niculescu. Game's
both
a 1-all,
teams
first set.
are fit. And movement is not going to be an issue. They'll run balls down. They'll let things go through. They'll throw up a high lob, get their partner back in position, and start again.
Miss Van Starrenburg to serve.
All right, 1-all, first set. Annika Van Starrenburg serving.
Jerry, I think when we see the higher level players in this sport, and at the end of this national tournament, the 4 players are here because they're the 4 players who are able to maintain that incredible intensity level throughout. And I think both of these teams, if they get on a roll and out in front, they do have the ability to close out matches. I think especially Cruz and Niculescu, if they get out against most teams, I'm not saying it could happen with Hanisch, Van Starrenburg, but they can get on a roll. That's amazing to watch.
15
Nice
love.
touch overhead that Van Starrenburg hit. I'm seeing that shot more and more in the game, going into that deuce side screen deep. The ball touches that side screen and then drops in the back screen.
And Jerry, we know Hanisch, Van Starrenburg always have positive energy together as a team. I'm seeing a lot of that today out of Cruz and Niculescu. More already than I have really seen this year.
15 all.
And that's the key. I mean, when you're playing together, you're playing for your partner, not to let your partner down. That gives you a positive energy all the way through. If you're just playing by yourself, then it becomes you're afraid to make mistakes. It changes your energy. But when you're a real team and you're in it together, that's the glue.
15-30.
And Jerry, both of these teams started off the weekend expecting to be in the finals. They didn't worry about losing. They expected to be here, and that's why they're here.
15-40. Game, Cruz, Niculescu, they lead 2-1, first set.
And you see that big serve from Van Starrenburg comes up high off the back screen, and it's right into the wheelhouse of Liz Cruz's favorite shot. So backhand drive off that screen. So sometimes, you know, you're trying to be big and brave and hit that big serve, but when you're playing against somebody that's got that return, better off putting in a little bit of a slider with less pace. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank one of our national sponsors. Viking Athletics is the premier brand and the undisputed leader in platform tennis. Viking is platform tennis. The Viking Extra Duty Ball has been the #1 selling ball in the industry for the last 20 years. Liz Cruz serving.
And no surprise that Cruz stayed back, Jerry, on her first serve. She just wants to make sure she does not fault. She knows Hanisch is looking to bring it on the return of serve, so she starts off first point of her serve back.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a very
15
smart
love.
play. Get your team into the point, serve, return, first volley. And you saw Gabby Niculescu picked a very smart shot right there, a little higher up. Hanisch had to make a decision if it was going long, and it dropped in.
$30 love.
And that's going to be a key. And Cruz stayed on her backhand volley there. Was able to defend the Van Starrenburg blitz.
30-15.
Big swinger on that backhand from Gabby. But that was because of the pressure of a little movement from Van Starrenburg.
Sneaky little drop shot by
40,
Niculescu
15.
there.
Yep. Game, Cruz, Niculescu, they lead 3-1, first set.
And an easy serving game for Liz Cruz. I never saw one of those yesterday, Jerry.
Okay, Flor Hanisch serving. 1-3, first set.
Jerry, last year's women's final, 3 of the same 4 players. The only difference was Roxy Anika was playing with Liz Cruz last year in the finals.
So one of the question marks that I had for Cruz Niculescu coming into this match was Liz Cruz, because she's in the role of always being the playmaker and the setup player, but she really wants to hit. So she's got to be consistent, but she wants to take her shots as well. And so far, she really is combining the two. She's picking smart shots, and when the ball's there, she's taking her swings and not making the unforced errors.
Love 30.
Jerry, besides Cruz's two-handed backhand yesterday, she lobbed beautifully cross-court deep, really bringing a lot of open court looks for Gabby. And I'll see if she can lob as well against this team, although this team's a lot taller than Curtis and Jaffe.
But so far she is. She's pulling them out of the service box, so it doesn't matter how tall they are. Just get
15,
that height
30.
up early before the net. You can pull them out of the service box,
15,
and that
30,
cuts down their ability to put more spin on their overheads and get it into the screen. I think their focus has been to get Liz Cruz to make an error or to push too hard, and so far she's been rock solid.
I saw a lot of this yesterday, Jerry, where Cruz would stand up on the service line on Gabby's return just to be up there in case there was a pop volley that was sitting up there where she could take the ball out of the air.
And that was all set up by Niculescu's
15,
perfect
40.
lob down the line. Caused a little hesitation between Hanisch and Van Starrenburg. Hanisch had to go behind Van Starrenburg to hit that shot, popped it short, and there was the drive from Niculescu. And you see that lob again from Liz Cruz. She's got Annika Van Starrenburg's feet out of the service box.
30, 40.
Now the breakpoint opportunity to go up 4-1 in the first set for Cruz Niculescu. And you see there's Liz Cruz moving forward on the service line. Little guest appearance there.
I didn't want to say it, Jerry. I wanted you to get your line out.
He's going for a little drop shot. See, there's lobs from Niculescu, keeping their opponent's feet out of the service box.
Seems like just yesterday when Niculescu hated to use those screens,
Yep.
Jerry.
There was no such thing as a lob.
She just couldn't understand why you would ever not drive every ball off the deck. But she got it.
And again, the foot speed and the athleticism of all these players, but eventually that pounding roller of Niculescu's wins the point.
Advantage, Miss Niculescu.
And when you play against Niculescu, you've got to lob that ball up high, Jerry. You need to try to prevent her from getting those short little shots where she can just end the point.
Great lob. Again, a
Game.
deep lob.
Cruz, Niculescu.
Caused the
They lead 4
hesitation.
games to 1, first set.
And Cruz and Niculescu are out to a strong lead in the first set.
Jerry, did you know Uline is the leading distributor of shipping, industrial, and packaging materials to businesses throughout North America? They ship over 2.5 million boxes every day, but they are so much more than a box company. More than 32,000 quality products are always in stock and ready to ship. Outstanding customer service means they're here when you need them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Uline, the best selection, products, and people for an unforgettable customer experience. Shout out to Brian Uline on his induction to the Hall of Fame. Friday night, we had a great ceremony. Flip Goodspeed got to introduce Brian, and Brian gave a graceful acceptance speech. And funny, Jerry.
He was funny.
Love 15.
And speaking of the Hall of Fame, shout out to Jill Birmingham, the daughter of Pam and Wooly Birmingham, who are a husband-wife team in the Hall of Fame. And it's always fun to run into people, Jerry, who we only see maybe once a year at the Nationals. And I ran into Jill the other night and said we would give a shout out thinking of their family. Jerry, I got to say, I expected a great start from Cruz and Niculescu. As we said, you know, they're very fresh. They wanted to play a lot yesterday, and they didn't get a chance. And I could just feel their intensity. This morning when we first saw them, they had a great warm-up. And yesterday it was like a drill watching them play from the baseline with how many, you know, they probably made like 85% of the drives they hit. Liz's two-handed backhand and Gabby's forehand. It looked like a clinic.
Yeah, the two teams had totally opposite days. Van Starrenburg, Hanisch mentally had to battle 2-3 set matches
15,
for hours.
30.
And Gabby's got two rollers, Jerry. She's got the one she crushes, and then the one she gets a little bit of hang time under and can hit the ball deep.
$30 all.
You
Yeah.
see both teams taking a moment to make sure that they keep on the game plan.
And Jerry, it seems to me that if you're Hanisch and Van Starrenburg, you've got to find Liz Cruz in the red vest. I think Gabby's getting way too many looks on her overhead. Easier said than done. But Van Starrenburg and Hanisch are a very smart team, and I expect they'll put a little pressure on Cruz with some of their lobs, if they can find her. And Cruz and Niculescu have
40,
no
30.
confusion about how they are covering the lobs, and they're being really disciplined here. And you could see Cruz going way off the court to her right to let Gabby come that far over.
Game, Cruz, Niculescu. They lead 5-1, first set.
So it's all Niculescu's roller right now is really causing a lot of damage.
And I got to hand it to Cruz and Niculescu in this set, Jerry. They've not been broken on their serve, which is really one of the things they were trying to do heading into this match.
Love 15.
They had to hold serve early on. Jerry, shout out to Sue Airy. I see she's watching us on Facebook. One of our game's great players and your longtime partner. You guys know a little bit about winning national championships, and no one thrived under the pressure better than you guys, Jerry.
It was the best day of the year, I'll tell you.
For you.
Yeah.
Actually, it was the best day, Jerry. I didn't mind losing. You know, there's no shame in losing to Hall of Famers.
Love 30.
And we know how hard it is to get to the finals. That was kind of worth like a third of a gold, Jerry, if you got to the finals.
Van Starrenburg, Hanisch trying to figure out what they're going to do differently here.
I mean, early in the season, we just saw Cruz and Niculescu dominate in some of their play, and they're dominating right now.
And again, it's that higher drive.
Love 40.
That's a smart placement for Liz Cruz, because a lot of times the players expecting that drive and they set their paddle down low and the drive comes straight back. But when you have to think about the height of the ball coming and raise your hands up, now you're dealing with, is it in, is it out, is it the speed? That's a very smart placement by Liz Cruz on that drive.
3 set points here for Cruz and Niculescu.
15-40. $30-40.
All right, they saved 2, Jerry. We've learned you never know with Van Starrenburg and Hanisch.
Oh, that was a great angle, and that is the first set to Cruz and Niculescu. So, Patty, it's all Cruz Niculescu show right now.
About a 2-minute break here, ladies.
Their dominant play is continuing here, Jerry. We're going to have to talk about it after the break, about what Van Starrenburg and Hanisch have to do to change things up. We will be right back in just a moment after these messages right here on the APTA Network presented by eNet Live.
Baseball has a rhythm. Pop, crack. It's the sounds of opportunity. That's why Good Sports helps kids get in the game by getting them the equipment they need. To learn more, please visit goodsports.org.
When it comes to the game of life, we're all on the same team. And success comes simply from trying. You don't have to be a celebrated athlete to celebrate being active. And you don't have to be on the field to have your own cheering section. United Healthcare.
Gabby. Sorry, I thought you were looking. I'm sorry.
All right, welcome back to the 2018 APTA National Championships. We're in the finals of the Women's Championships between Liz Cruz and Gabriela Niculescu, and Floor Hanisch and Annika van Starrenburg. And Patty, the first set was all Cruz, Niculescu. What do you think Hanisch van Starrenburg have to do to get into this match?
Jerry, I think they need to win more points.
Excellent. You're a fabulous coach.
You know,
second set.
They're not playing poorly. I think that I always think you have to lob higher, lob deeper, and try to avoid so much of Gabby time. I just think Gabby's hitting way too many balls.
Yeah, Hanisch van Starrenburg don't look quite comfortable to me yet. A part is themselves, and a large part is Niculescu and Cruz. The way they're playing, they haven't been able to, they're not letting them get their rhythm.
And just to start off the second set, Gabby's hit 90% of the balls already. And I think they've got to test Cruz over there, especially on Cruz's forehand. I know it doesn't let Van Starrenburg and Hanisch stay in the side they prefer to play, and they love playing into that ad court corner. But I feel like they've got to make Cruz beat him here, not Gabby.
And they had a good look there, but it was just too big a swing. They're going to think Hanisch van Starrenburg have to be willing to hit more balls. You kind of sometimes, with the barrage of shots and the pace and the spin, you feel like you have to do something better to beat Niculescu.
30, love.
But in fact, it's just the opposite. You want to keep it as simple as you can. Get those lobs up, like you said, get those lobs up higher and deeper. And I'd take a little bit of speed off the overheads too.
I just think Gabby's getting way too many balls out of that ad court, and Gabby's dialed in here. And Cruz is playing a really high-level match. She's a beautiful, complimentary player and really knows what Gabby time is all about, and Liz has a willingness to let Gabby time take over.
See, and that's the difference there, is that Niculescu's pressure makes you feel like you have to come back with the point-ending shot. And what happens, you're put in a position of where you win it or you lose it. So Van Starrenburg was the right shot to drive, but half the speed, be a little bit more accurate, put one more ball back in play.
$40-15.
And Jerry, you've always been a firm believer that you just got to keep getting the ball to the other side of the net. Don't be the one who ends the point.
Right, you don't want to be the rally killer. That's a better lob. But it needs to be a combination of lobs. Open up the point.
Cruz and Niculescu, they win the first game of the second set.
I mean, they got the look they wanted. But, you know, Gabby came up with a big-time volley there, Jerry. Floor had a nice, aggressive forehand to hit, but Gabby was more than ready for it.
It's exactly the speed of play that Niculescu Cruz thrive on.
I mean, I just love the positive energy from Gabby and Liz. I mean, they're bouncing about the court, high-fiving, low-fiving Jerry. I mean, they're feeling the partner love today. Jerry, so Van Starrenburg's starting to serve. Second set here, even though Hanisch served first in the first set.
Love.
Do they do that so that they just keep serving on the same side throughout the match? The sun is a factor of these courts over here, and so the players do become accustomed to a particular side, and they'll go out of their serving order in order to just stay on the same side, so they don't have to change the look that they're used to.
Love.
So Hanisch, Van Starrenburg have got to take away what Cruz Niculescu want. They've got to find a way to make them feel uncomfortable. And right now,
40,
it looks to me
love.
like they're just reacting to Cruz Niculescu. They've got to figure out their game plan. But there's not a lot of choices to make Cruz Niculescu uncomfortable right now because they both look so solid to me. Smart play. Really smart play and placement of that next roller.
40-15.
Jerry, quick shout out to Dave Chelson, whose flight got canceled out of Portland earlier this week. Couldn't make it out here to the Nationals, but he enjoying the live streaming and smoking a cigar. That was a gift from you.
Oh.
I mean, I never thought to bring Dave a cigar.
Well, when you go to Cuba,
Exactly.
and who's the first person that comes to mind when you're in Cuba?
Well, the second, Jerry.
40-30.
David and Deb are fixtures at the national championships, and they don't miss too many, Jerry. I know they're bummed about it.
All right, Van Starrenburg's up 40-30. Trying to keep this first service game in their favor.
And it's early in the set, but I think they have to hold here.
Boy, that's a beautiful roller from Niculescu, isn't it? Behind the service line, and she, like you had said before, she just brushes up the back of the ball and then gets that ball back deep.
And that's the difference from, 2 years ago to a year ago to now. She knows when to, add 75 miles an hour and when to take it off within sort of the same technique of a roll overhead. little dangerous with Van Starrenburg and Hanisch going back and forth here. Like I said, I think they need to. I would go at Cruz a couple of shots in a row. See, I think Van Starrenburg's, trying to lob over Cruz, but Cruz is just simply moving to her right, getting off the court toward the alley, and Gabby's coming over, hitting another roller. I think Van Starrenburg needs to lob more cross-court, Jerry, to make Niculescu actually, stay
Chase.
honest, and I think that would help them.
Advantage, Miss
Get her
Van
chasing the
Starrenburg.
ball to the right.
Moving to your left is more difficult than moving to your right for the type of player that Gabby is, and the way she holds her paddle and loves to hit those rolls.
That's a better overhead. Take the pace off of the ball.
Deuce.
Kind of an awkward miss from Van Starrenburg right there. Tried to let the ball drop and really she got too much underneath that ball, Jerry. Too much arc.
See, that's the ball that Van Starrenburg's got to take. And that's the reason why. I mean, even if Van Starrenburg had ducked, it's
Advantage,
pulling Hanisch
Niculescu.
all the way over behind. Wherever she puts that next ball, the court's going to be wide open. It's going to be a duck and weave chase. Van Starrenburg's got to take that.
Or she's got to move to her right, like what's Cruz doing. Get way out of the way. I know that's not the way you like the play to go, but
Creates
that's a
too
tough
much
shot.
of a
That's
chase.
Tough loss of point there when you hit your partner on any shot.
Right, now they're trying to change
Cruz,
the game
Niculescu,
plan,
they
and I
lead
think
2
they're just
games
a
to love.
little
Second set.
unsettled.
And Jerry, I think when you go after a deuce score player, you have to hit shots right into their body. You run out of court over there really easily. And that's exactly what happened there. They tried to force it, where go right into her body with your overheads. So Cruz and Niculescu, I mean, won the first set 6-1. Just got a break, and they're up 2-love here.
15
Finals of our
love.
national championships.
You saw Flo Hanisch trying to get the spark going, and the paddle just the ball just tipped off the edge of her paddle. Now both Cruz and Niculescu are teaching professionals in the Connecticut Fairfield County. And I'm sure all their teams are watching and cheering them on. But Liz Cruz is at the Brooklawn Country Club in Connecticut. Gabby Niculescu is at the Millbrook Club in Connecticut. Lots of women's teams and men's teams.
30 love.
And our junior national champions, Jerry, got a free pass into this tournament, and Jay Koreski, who plays out of Millbrook, is here watching Gabby.
There's another roller winner.
40
Patty, it's 36 degrees here. Sunny, blue sky. So the ball's you can hold it on your paddle. It's not flying. When it gets up a little warmer, the balls tend to fly, but it really is playing into the spin and the rollers of Niculescu.
Game, Cruz, Niculescu. They lead 3-0, second set.
And they
Cruz,
are
Niculescu won the first
cruising.
set, 6-1.
Jerry,
That's
I had a
sad, isn't it?
feeling you were going to say that too. The APTA thanks our official sponsor, Save a Tree, the green choice for tree, shrub, and lawn care. Let Save a Tree focus on your landscape so you can focus on your game and enjoy every outdoor moment at home or play. Save a Tree provides environmentally sensible services to properties in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Midwest, and Western regions. Contact them at saveatree.com for a complimentary landscape assessment by a knowledgeable arborist. So the Niculescu Cruz train is on a roll, Jerry.
Yeah.
I think they're that high-speed train.
Well, I think, that not playing that semi-final yesterday has made them even more hungrier and focused and determined, and maybe there's a little bit of mental fatigue from Hanisch van Starrenburg, coupled with just the brilliant play of Cruz and Niculescu. I mean, they are playing. All of their strengths are on fire here. There's really not a weakness in their game. Yeah, they're just too quick right now. They're very unsettled.
15 all.
They need to slow down and take a moment and just hit as many balls as they can to one specific spot.
I'm just shocked that Cruz and Niculescu at this point in the second set, and they've not been broken on their serve. That was one of our keys to victory for them, and they've really done a wonderful job of keeping the ball in play there. And
there we go. That's a shot
have
that'll
themselves
make them
really
happy.
well positioned.
30,
That
15.
was the Van Starrenburg two-handed backhand that we've seen often. So the games are going fast. They just went from 2-love to 3-love here in the second set.
That's about what it feels like.
Forty, 15.
A rare miss for Niculescu out of that half court today. Jerry, I saw that all day yesterday. Phenomenal lobbing from Cruz out of that deuce court.
Hanisch van
Great
Starrenburg.
rip there.
That was a
Danger
big
3-1.
serve from
Cruz
Floor
Niculescu.
Hanisch. All right, so they need to take a moment, Hanisch van Starrenburg, and take a few deep breaths here and get the pace slowed down, because it's all Cruz Niculescu's speed of play. And again, look at Liz Cruz showing that court awareness.
Love 15.
She's got that little chip forehand that she'll use sometimes.
I think what separates the top players of the game, Jerry, are that shot selection. They all have a ton of shots, but knowing when to pull the trigger on certain
15
shots,
all.
that's the key, and that's what separates in our sport every level.
And so you saw Van Starrenburg miss that overhead because of the lack of footwork. And sometimes when you're a little bit nervous, you know, that's the first thing to go is your footwork. Just needs to take those few more little adjustment steps and get herself set.
Jerry, is it nerves or a little fatigue?
Could be a combination of both. I mean, they really, like I said, physically they had battles yesterday. Had to play 6 sets, save 2 match points. 2 match points in the quarterfinal, and then 1 match point in the semifinal. But mentally, I mean, they had to stay focused
15,
for
30.
hours.
And that's the grueling part, besides the obvious physically, to, you know, focus for that long. It takes a lot out of you.
15-30.
Yeah, I think this is a big game right here for Hanisch van Starrenburg. Cruz and Niculescu are
30 all.
just making them so uncomfortable with the barrage of shots, then quick pace right back at them that they get a little, they come up for air a little bit, and then Cruz Niculescu snuff it out. So Van Starrenburg just
40,
needs
30.
to take some deep, deep breaths.
You know, Hanisch went over trying to keep her positive.
That's what we saw yesterday, the ability to come right
Deuce.
back. That next shot. Just need to string a couple of those points together. Again, there's just too much speed. It goes right into what Van Starrenburg got in trouble on that shot.
Advantage, Miss Cruz.
Wow. Gabby is really
Jane,
on a
Cruz,
tear
Niculescu,
there. So,
they lead 4
Patty, you
games
know,
to 1.
matchups are so
Second set.
important. And what we
Cruz,
saw
Niculescu won the
yesterday
first set, 6 games
was
to 1.
Floor Hanisch provided the spark that the team needed. She was willing to step up and rip a couple of shots when they were under pressure and changed the dynamic. And then Annika van Starrenburg came with her. But here, picking up the pace is not what you want to do, because it's playing right into Niculescu and Cruz's speed of play. So one of them has got to take charge here and just let's hit 9,000 balls to those 2 boards at a certain pace and become like a dripping tap. But I don't think they've figured out where those 2 or 3 boards are, because they keep going too much to Niculescu. And when they go to Cruz, like you said, it's a skinny amount of court over there, so you can't go to the side screen. They can't go too hard to her backhand because she'll drive it. So I think the best 3 boards would be right at Liz Cruz. Make her get out of her own way. Make her be the one that has to hit off the deck. But they'll need to be calm and focused to be able to execute that strategy.
to your point, Jerry. They force that again, and there's a little bit
Love
of space
15.
over there, and I just think they have to go right into Liz's body. And Jerry, sometimes there's no safe place on a court. I mean, the level of play, Niculescu and Cruz here is off the charts high.
Yeah, they are absolutely playing at the highest level of their game, both of them at the same time, at the right time. It's all, they're totally dominating. Hanisch and Van Starrenburg are having to react to them. It's just too much speed. It was a right
40.
shot to go to Liz Cruz, but to hit it faster than you can shift your team over. And then it also gave Liz an opportunity to use the speed of play to attack. Came up with a let cord, but it was the speed of the overhead that got them in trouble. Oh, God.
Game, Cruz, Niculescu.
What
They lead
a
5
thump.
games to 1.
Oh, Patty, we're
Second
sitting
set.
directly behind that swing. So Niculescu is serving for the match and the national championship.
She's won this with Martina Andreikova. She loves to win. She's a 2-time mixed national champ. And really a fierce competitor.
Love
All these
15.
women are. And that's the
Love 30.
play Van Starrenburg loves, where she just returns, fouls in, hit a beautiful volley. Love the poise with Cruz and the touch on those volleys there. Didn't overreact, let the ball come to her paddle, kept the ball down low.
Love 40.
Wow.
Game, Hanisch, Van Starrenburg.
Hanisch Van
Cruz,
Starrenburg,
Niculescu lead
hang
5
on.
games to 2. Second set.
First break for Hanisch Van Starrenburg in this match, Jerry. Couldn't have come at a better time.
Well, if they can find a way to turn this around, they'll definitely stay with their Houdini name.
The new ball again, ladies.
Yeah, if they pulled this one out, I would be amazed. They continue to amaze. I just don't see it happening today. I feel like this is all Cruz Niculescu today. So Hanisch to serves to stay in the match.
It's a new ball, so as is customary, they take a practice serve.
Love.
Is that the third back forehand that Gabby's missed in this entire match, Jerry?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Cruz has lobbed well, but I'm impressed with Gabby's lobbing as well. They really are tag teaming the lobbing and really keeping Van
15 all.
Starrenburg Hanisch off balance this entire match. That's what your point is, Jerry. You're almost...
15-30.
They're finding themselves where they're just going for too much, and they really are never going to get back in the match.
Right.
Doing it, making a quick error in the point.
Well, it's just the speed of Cruz and Niculescu. I just get the feeling that
Their foot speed, Jerry, is what you're referring
Yeah.
to, right?
30
and
all.
and the speed of their shots, the pace of play, it's all quick, fast, hard. Hanisch, Van Starrenburg need to slow it down. They don't have to hit a better shot because Gabby hits such a hard shot. You don't have
30,
to come up with
40.
a better shot to beat her. You just have to put that ball back in play in a place that's going to make them uncomfortable.
And we've got a match point for Niculescu and Cruz.
Deuce.
And Hanisch, Van Starrenburg have proven they can play under pressure. See, that's the overhead. They need to hit it with less pace. Make Liz Cruz have to generate her own pace off the deck, and they're just playing into it. That's a better pace overhead right there.
It's one of the best points of the match for Hanisch and Van Starrenburg.
Advantage, Miss Hanisch.
And they went after Gabby Niculescu.
Beautiful shot right down that line from Hanisch out of that deuce court.
Starrenburg. Cruz and Niculescu
So
lead
they
5 games to
fought
3,
off one
second
match
set.
point. This is where they feel most comfortable, I'm beginning to think, in national championship. Let's see just how far down we can get and see what we need to do to pull it out.
Do you recommend that strategy, Jerry?
Let's say it gets the heart rate up, that's for sure.
Really good eye. It's getting a little warmer, Jerry.
Love 15.
Really smart to let that ball bounce.
All.
Cruz and Niculescu are big-time tennis players. Been in a lot of tough matches. As Liz Cruz played Fed Cup. And know how to play the big matches, but as we all know, it's closing the matches
15,
out.
30.
They can see the finish line. That was a huge play by Van Starrenburg. Got the ball below. Whoa. Again, it's throw the lob up. You don't have to hit a big shot. Did a good job of running that ball down, getting it off the screen, put the ball back in play. Hard to stay composed. Match point number 2.
You right? 40, 30.
I think Cruz was relieved that she put that serve in the box there. She had a shaky one a point ago to the deuce court.
Oh, little hesitation there. And Liz Cruz is just as comfortable in the ad side.
Having won a national championship with Anna Brazova over there.
Wow. Game, set, match. Cruz, Niculescu, 6-1, 6-3.
6-3.
Absolute spectacular play by Cruz and Niculescu when they needed it. Patty.
Jerry, they just dominated, really. They served incredibly well. Cruz was so consistent out of that deuce court, and Gabby just was relentless with the pressure she put on from the baseline and at the net with that roll overhead.
Yeah, and you know, hats off to Hanisch Van Starrenburg. They had a wonderful tournament, like we said. They had 2 tough 3-set matches yesterday. They managed to save 2 match points in the quarters and a match point in the semi. But it was all Cruz, Niculescu today. It was their speed of play. So while we're waiting for the players to set up, we're going to stay with you. They're going to have an interview with the players. We're going to have the trophy presentation. But before that happens, we have a special tribute that we would like to share with you. And the other night at the Hall of Fame dinner, we had the dedication of calling our national trophy, women's trophy, the Strauss Cup. And it is in honor of Deanne Strauss. So for over 3 decades, Deanne had amassed 29 national championships with 12 different partners, including 6 women's open titles, 2 mixed, and multiple senior titles. In 2004, Deanne was inducted into the Hall of Fame, our sport's highest honor. And Patty, it's an honor for us to be involved in the game and witness firsthand what a true champion Deanne Strauss was. And it's only fitting that we connect a permanent memory of the game's most decorated player in the history of our sport by naming the women's national trophy in her honor. And we put together a little tribute of Deanne's career. I'm going to share that with you now.
a fitting tribute. I love all of those pictures that you gathered. Deanne was such a fierce competitor, such a gracious champion. We all loved her, and we miss her. We're going to throw it out to Lauren Mandel, who gets the first interview with our new national champions.
I'm here with the 2018 APTA National Champions. Congratulations, Gabby and Liz. You guys came out like gangbusters. Were you at all nervous coming into the match today?
Yes, I was nervous, and I think she was nervous.
I was nervous. I thought she wasn't nervous.
Well, you didn't.
It helped me having one.
I thought that she wasn't nervous. Like, okay, so that's good.
You guys didn't play nervous at all. Did you have like just a game plan? You said we're just going to stick with this.
We did have a game plan. Yeah. We also we were very hungry to win. There was nothing at that moment I wanted more than winning another title. So we're so happy we were able to do it.
And do you think the fact that your opponents had those grueling long matches yesterday where they had to save match points and you had a tough match, but then you had a default, do you think that worked to your advantage?
I don't think so, because sometimes when I have toughest matches, I'm mentally stronger. Because they saved 2 match points, so I was like, oh my God, that's their momentum. So, it could be either way, but they're still young, so they can recover.
And what are you going to do to celebrate?
We're going to have some margaritas, I heard. Sally Jones promised us. Oh, thank you to Sally who hosted us at this tournament. Thank you to the sponsors, Viking, Uline, and maybe the other one. Savory, thank you.
Yes.
And thank you to our sponsors,
Wilson and Paddle Players.
And last but not least, our family and friends and Millbrook Club and Brooklawn Country Club. Thank you for watching.
They were watching. They were supporting you.
Parents, I think her parents are watching too. So from Romania and El Salvador. So we're so happy to be here, and thank you so much for allowing us to be here and making this happen.
Great playing. Congratulations, ladies.
Thank you.
When it comes to the game of life, we're all on the same team. And success comes simply from trying. You don't have to be a celebrated athlete to celebrate being active. And you don't have to be on the field to have your own cheering section. United Healthcare.
Welcome to the 2018 APTA National Championships presented by our national sponsors Viking, Savory and Uline, and our local sponsors Phil's Automotive Group, Midwest Orthopedics at Rush, RBC Wealth Management and Chicago Platform Tennis Charities. We are live at the Glenview Club in Gulf, Illinois on the APTA Network presented by eNet Live. I'm Jerry Viant, along with Mark Fischel, bringing you the men's final between the number 2 seeds Broderick and Palmer and the number 1 seeds Hughes and Powers. And Mark Fischel, I think we're in for a tremendous battle here.
Well, this is the match everybody's been waiting to see, Jerry. It's obviously the top 2 teams in the country. Nobody's beaten Hughes and Powers since October. And they had a win over Broderick and Palmer at Long Island.
And we see Shannon Vinson, our tour director, out on the court, and our chair umpire Michael Montalbano,
who's also the APTA Umpires Committee chair.
As the players are getting onto the court, Mark, why don't we take a look at the draw? Talk about the path that the players took to get here.
Broderick Palmer had a relatively easy route. Hughes and Powers had a slight tussle this morning with Durant Parsons, 6-2, 2-6, 6-2.
And in prior rounds, unlike the women's draw where they really had some 3-set battles and match points down, I don't think these teams have dropped a set.
Well, obviously Hughes Powers dropped a set in the semis, but
Right.
nothing earlier than that.
Prior to that.
And both teams are very fresh, and I don't expect fatigue to be a factor, as I think it probably was, and you and Patty Hogan probably discussed this in the women's final.
Okay, so as the players are warming up, why don't you go ahead and talk about each player and where they are on the court so we can identify them and what strengths they may have.
Okay, so Jared Palmer in the deuce court closest to us, wearing the pink hat, is one of the most accomplished tennis players ever to play platform tennis. Two-time Grand Slam champion, former #1 in the world in doubles, top 35 in singles, possessor of probably the best volley in the country. Big question with Jared is how sharp he's going to be. Living out in California these days, he plays very little paddle. His partner in the fatigue jacket and blue and red and white and red hat is Drew Broderick. Drew's a lefty. Drew is is the fiercest competitor in the game. Great discipline, great tactician, and he and Palmer are the 3-time defending national champions. On the far side of the court, the lefty in the blue vest is John Hughes. Very athletic, moves really well, drives the ball exceptionally well off the wires, and just really good at retrieving the ball and putting one more ball in place. And his partner is Mark Powers. Mark's wearing the red shirt and black hat. Many people, myself included, think that Mark has kind of ascended to be the best player in the country. Of course, he needs to deliver today to wrest that title out of the hands of Drew Broderick. Mark drives the ball off of both sides. He's got a short backswing, explodes into the ball, volleys really well, moves really well. He's the complete package. He's kind of a mini Johan Durant in a lot of ways.
And Hughes and Powers are undefeated since December.
Since October there. They lost 2 matches all year, one to our chair umpire, Michael Montalbano, at the Patterson Open, and then they lost in the finals of the Steel City Open in Pittsburgh in late October to Arraya Morneau. Since then, they've spanked everybody. Their coming out party was in Long Island at the Dwayne Hayden Invitational, where they beat Arraya Morneau in the semis and then Broderick Palmer in the finals. They have then proceeded to beat Durant Parsons the last 3 times and Arraya Morneau a couple more times. So they've really separated themselves from the field, and as we talked about in our draw landscape show back on Thursday, Jerry, these are the 2 teams that you expected to see in the finals.
And just before the match gets started, I'd like to bring in the APTA president, Scott Bondurant. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much.
This is an exciting day for all of paddle.
Indeed. It's just a celebration of our sport, and it's awesome to have the 2 best teams in the country out here doing battle for who's going to be the best. But it's also really fantastic for the APTA. We're really pleased to announce a 5-year contract extension with Viking Athletics to support our sport. They're really the premier brand and leading provider of paddles and balls, and they're stepping up in a really major way to support the game and platform tennis. So, their contributions can help us do a ton of things, such as live scoring and live streaming. It's a great relationship, and I really encourage everybody out there to think about using Viking paddles and Viking balls and help support the game. I also want to touch on our other sponsors, Save a Tree and Uline, which are enormously valuable to us. And finally, and really most importantly, is all you APTA member league players out there all over the country that allow us to do all the things that we do to try and support the game, besides the live streaming and live scoring. Things like clinics and exhibitions, loans and grants for public access sports. We've got the National League Championships coming up here on April 7th and 8th. So if you're your team out there wants to play for a national championship of any level, you can do it. Come out to Chicago and play and just have a ball. We also, I think you're probably aware, because I know that the gang has been talking about it, but there's a national B titles this year as well, which is again exciting for all levels for players at just below this level. So thank you everybody for all you do for the sport, and I'll turn it back to Jerry and Mark.
And thank you, Scott. It's tremendous vision and leadership from the APTA president and bringing in all the initiatives and everybody here. The crowds are building at the Glenview Club. And Mark, why don't we take a look at the keys, the Viking keys to winning for Broderick and Palmer.
Well, controlled tempo, Jerry. I mean, that's Drew Broderick's staple. Plays a very slow style, very conservative, never wants to miss, and that's the style that he's brought to the game that was so effective counteracting Durant Parsons.
And he does have weapons, but he's very patient and will wait for this, has a willingness and a tenacity to wait for that right ball. He never feels pressured into taking a swing that he's not set up for.
It's in play.
And they need to find powers at the net, and that was a function of what happened on Long Island.
If it hits the snowboard with a banner on it, it's in play.
So Montalbano's discussing how we're handling the snowboards if the ball hits the snowboard. Yeah, at Long Island, they were very effective. Hughes and Powers were in Hughes hitting a lot of hard overheads into Palmer's corner, and then Powers would cut the ball off and punch the ball behind him.
Can we kill the music?
And I think that's going to be a critical component of the match. Jared's living out in California these days. He doesn't have a paddle on his hand with any real frequency, and we'll see what type of, how sharp he is. And to be honest, they really haven't been tested the entire tournament. And the next key, which is find Hughes in the backcourt, is a similar one, because you want to avoid Powers' offense and his explosiveness. And a lot of teams like to play Hughes in the middle of the court, make him drive the ball off the deck. So let's take a look at the keys to victory for Hughes Powers. And the big thing for them, we have 3 listed here, but for me there's really one.
Mark Powers from New York City, New York, and John Hughes from Enfield, Connecticut. To my right, Drew Broderick from Summit, New Jersey, and Jared Palmer from Menlo Park, California. Due to a tardiness penalty, Broderick Palmer have lost the toss and first point of the match. Hughes Powers elected to receive.
So Jerry, let me finish the keys to victory. You can talk about, we just heard from Montalbano. So manage the occasion. This is their first national final, and it's different.
Absolutely.
It's different than every other match they play.
I've spoken about there are final nerves and there are national championships nerves, and this is the first time for Hughes and Powers. Last year they were happy to make the semifinals. This year they've come in expecting to be in the finals and expecting to win, so they're in new territory emotionally, and that's what we'll be watching for. And I think that could be really all 3 keys, but also control the tempo. They like to play fast. They have a big transition game. They're so athletic. They cover each other. They take their big shots, and then find Palmer, which is hard to believe that you're going to give the ball to Palmer, but based on what you said earlier.
Well, only someone of Jared's talent and ability could be playing the game at the level he's playing it with the frequency that he's on the court. It's just unbelievable to me that he's able to do this. When he first told me he was moving to California, I thought that was it as a top player. And yet last year, with a similar schedule, a slightly better schedule for his purposes, he still won the national championship. At the times that I've seen him play this year, he has not been as sharp.
Not as sharp, yeah.
Atlantic, Long Island, Short Hills. Didn't play badly by any stretch, but didn't play at the level that Jared Palmer is accustomed to playing.
Now, a difference here in the National, this is their 3rd day of play, and as we've witnessed before, Jared Palmer worked his way into the tournament, and he's got 3 days of play
with a new ball
under his belt. So, Mark, let's just talk about what we just heard our umpire, Michael Montalbano, say, that there was a a lateness penalty.
Broderick and Palmer were late getting here, and they were penalized the toss and the first point of the match. Now, Jerry, we were talking a little bit off air. If you know your opponent's been penalized a point, does that change your attitude in terms of your selection to serve or to receive, or would you maintain whatever selection you'd have otherwise?
Well, I think I'd stay with what I had, the game plan, keep everything comfortable. They've obviously talked about it. They chose to receive. It allows you to get into the match.
Yeah, this is Broderick Palmer's fourth consecutive final, and Broderick made two finals with Chris Gambino, one successfully, one unsuccessfully. So this is his sixth national final since 2012.
And they're chasing the most current record of Manziger Goodspeed, who won 5 consecutive in a row.
Yeah, the match has it's a dream setup, Jerry.
Yeah, and it's fantastic setup here. I mean, Chicago is home to the largest league in the country. They have over 7,500 players playing on the court every week in their leagues, and 160 courts with over 35 facilities. It is really a paddle mecca out here. And big thank you to tournament directors John Noble and Shannon Vinson and Alan Graham have done a spectacular job. This is a military maneuver. The logistics pulling this together, including President's Cup, over the 3 days, and the players love coming out here.
I guess we're missing Jared Palmer.
You can see it's quite sunny, blue sky out here.
Beautiful setting at the Glenview Club, as it always is. Big crowd.
And the temperature's warmed up a little bit from this morning. It's 37 degrees. So do you think the temperature, the ball being a little cooler, favors one team over the other?
You know, Broderick likes warm weather, makes retrieving easier. But Powers and Hughes are great at retrieving also, so I don't know that it benefits everybody. Here we go. Practice serve for Broderick. And they'll get started.
15 all.
That backhand of Hughes has improved so much this year off the wires. One of the big steps forward he's made.
Add to the list. I think they've both improved all around on all of their shots. I mean, they've practiced, they've drilled.
15-40.
They've bought the most important thing is they've become much more consistent and willing to stay in there. And there's a big nick serve by Drew Broderick.
30-40.
Little John Hughes' own medicine.
So Drew Broderick is a director of racket sports at the Canoebook Country Club in New Jersey. He's in the green. He's the lefty.
Oh. Big forehand and blitz from Powers. And Jerry, I gotta say, with our #1 key to victory, they don't look phased in the slightest to me starting out. That was a large forehand, and I think he surprised Broderick or Palmer blitzing in behind it because it came so far off the back wires.
I think the semifinal they had with Durant Parsons would have helped a little bit with that, getting the nerves out and getting a feel of the court and speed of play. And they had a little bit of a dip in that match and then came back strong.
It was a fast first game. It's not the tempo Broderick Palmer are going to want to play at. John Hughes to serve. He's serving to Jared Palmer in the white and black hat. And there's the spin that you worry about Palmer's being able to handle, having played so little this year.
And there's a vicious about a spin on that.
That's the play they use so effectively at Long Island. Hughes hitting the overheads at Palmer, and Powers looking to cut the ball off.
And the overhead that he's hitting is making Jared Palmer have to move back and to his right as the ball's coming at him.
Powers has gotten so good at the net, cutting balls off. A little confusion from Broderick Palmer there.
Wow, look at the spin on that ball. It is just exploding. And it's going to be if Jared Palmer can stay composed enough as he's spinning around trying to find that overhead.
And Hughes Powers' game plan is very visible very early.
And you see Drew Broderick lobbing to Powers, as we talked about. I mean, they don't want Hughes hitting that big spin overhead.
Palmer to take a couple of his drives down Powers' line. Powers has done a really good job of kind of cheating to the middle, taking that drive away, and I think Palmer's got to keep him honest.
40-15.
Jerry, which team do you think has more belief?
The guys in the red
Game,
they just have that look that they know they've got all these tournaments under their belt. I think Broderick Palmer, don't get me wrong, I think they believe they can win, but they haven't had that lead up that these two guys in the red have had. I mean, all their foundation and then their homework has just paid off, and they're peaking at the right time, and they really do believe that it's their year to win the national title.
The process, as you like to call it.
Yes, they have really embraced the process and loved the journey, and the results come.
And here you see what we talked about.
Oh,
what a
look
shot
at that,
Hughes.
just spectacular playmaking.
The
And
crowd erupts.
we've seen Hughes elevate his offense and his belief.
And there's Powers' athleticism on display.
Love 30.
They've just had that look since Long Island when it started for them. Broderick Palmer have the titles that
Wow.
go.
Love 40.
Jerry, Broderick
Yep.
missed that overhead by a yard and a half.
I saw I had to stop talking because I had to take a double look.
How aggressive Powers is being, blitzing behind virtually every return.
That's too good.
Great shot from Broderick there.
15,
That's what I was
40.
saying. Broderick Palmer have the titles behind Walk the Walk and have that look.
That ball
That was
missed
good, that was
long,
good, that was
confirmed.
good, that was good. That was good. Yes.
I thought Montalbano put his finger out initially. Big reversal of the
30-40.
call there.
Still break point for a 3-love lead.
Give it a chance to really turn things around if they could sneak out a hold here.
And there's our first screen climber, I call these guys. I'd be interested to see if they'll be able to execute that play because Drew being a lefty
Great ball through from Powers.
can get that ball more into the screen.
It's a big early point in the match. Wow, Broderick with a surprising
Game,
miss, and
Hughes
they're up
Powers,
to
I think the
a
first set,
fast
3 games to
3-love
love.
lead. Jerry, do you think the tardiness penalty has had an impact on the match?
I would say it would be a little unsettling. I mean, I don't ever remember seeing it happen before. Definitely not in a national championship, but
And Broderick looks a little unsettled. We've seen
Yeah.
several surprising misses from him in 3 relatively fast games.
yeah, and I don't know if they had a chance to come back and, well, obviously, unless they were warming up at another club, they weren't actually on site. So normally, play a semi-final, you want to take a shower and stretch and just relax and then have your own warm-up before you get into the match.
Well, right now it's one-way traffic.
So John Powell's serving.
See a good view of the great crowd here at the Glenview
Love
Club
15.
gathered around the court.
It's a 6-court facility here.
There's Powers again, cutting off the Palmer drive in the middle of the court.
Oh, look at that break spin.
15
He's
all.
going to have to take a couple of balls down Powers' line to keep him honest. Great serve from Powers there.
30-15.
And you can see that Palmer's just not reading the ball off the paddle like he normally does.
I like that little scout shot that Mark Powell sends out cross court. Little 3-quarter pace.
30 all.
Couple of missed lobs from John Hughes this game.
30 all.
Went for the big serve again and faulted.
30-40.
Chance for Broderick Palmer to get on the board. Oh, what a volley from Powers.
Yeah, he sees the ball so early, Mark.
Wow, that was a strange game from
Broderick Palmer.
Hughes.
Hughes Powers lead 3-1 first set.
2 missed lobs and a missed overhead. Can't afford to give Broderick Palmer anything.
Love 15.
It's the speed of play, I think. I mean, it's Hughes and Powers are just all over them, cutting, volleying, and it's not Drew Broderick's speed of play right now. But I'm sure they'll work their way into the match.
15-30.
Broderick stays on the backhand volley as well as any lefty who's ever played the game. Another missed lob from
30
Hughes.
all.
That ball was
40,
overhit,
30.
had the court open. Great lob from Hughes, pushed Powers back, pushed Broderick back, and Powers misses the forehand. First hold of the match for Broderick Palmer takes us to 3-2.
And you see where Mark Powers was looking to use that sneaky little move that they've really developed over the season, where he comes in on that down-up overhead. He moves up halfway between the service line and the baseline and tries to spike it, but he just jumped too soon.
Viking Athletics is the premier brand and the undisputed leader in platform tennis. The Viking Extra Duty platform ball has been the #1 selling ball in the industry for the last 20 years. It's the official ball of the APTA, of the APTA Nationals and President's Cup, and of the Grand Prix Tour. Okay, Jerry, it looks like we've got ourselves a match as Broderick Palmer have worked their way into it. A couple holes, a little bit of sloppy play from Hughes Powers.
Love 15. Love 30.
Big forehand from Broderick. Kind of a tentative
Love
swing from
40.
Hughes there.
All right, Mark, we'd like to welcome to the booth Mark Parsons. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, guys.
So we'd just like to get your thoughts on the match right now.
Brilliant battle. And Drew and Jared were missing a little bit, and now they're not missing anymore. And it's going to be quite the match, I think, for the rest of the day.
15-40.
Applause from Palmer for the cut overhead from Powers. Mark, obviously you've played both these teams multiple times. What do you think that Hughes and Powers have to do to dethrone Broderick Palmer, other than not miss overheads like that?
They've started off the right way. Hughes is taking that lefty cutter into Jared's corner, and you notice Powers is taking, I think, less than 1 or 2 shots into Drew's side screen, and so far it's worked for them. That being said, there's now more balls going back in the court, and it makes it more difficult to hit those cutters over and over again.
And what do you see that Broderick Palmer have done to change things up and get back in the match after the fast start for Hughes Powers?
You know, Broderick and Palmer are going to stay out there all day, and they're going to play their game. I mean, at 3-love down, Drew was still smiling and cracking jokes with Jared, and they're never out of this. And as you can see right now, they've picked up the pace of play a little bit, meaning in between points, because they're on a little bit of a roll, and they're going to play solid fundamental paddle. And when they get the opportunity for Drew to hit his cutter, that's what they're going to look for, and they're going to make Hughes and Powers beat them.
You guys had a great match with them this morning, you and Durant. What strategy did you employ against Hughes and Powers? Because I know you've seen a bunch of them over the last month and a half.
We had a couple different strategies, and then sun played a little bit of a factor. We decided to go with a few different things. We gave up the net a little bit more than probably we're used to, and kind of, you know, we're hoping to not get stuck in transition points because they are so quick and so good with their hands. But you know, they had a little bit of a lull in the second, which we took advantage of. But then they played a really good third set. Great shot there from Powers.
30-15.
What do you think's been the most improved area of Hughes and Powers? I mean, it's dramatic.
I think it's their lobbing. You know, a bunch of people have asked me that question. I think Hughes is lobbing at a level that we've never seen in the game. His ability to set himself up, but also set up Powers, has been remarkable this year. And look, they're playing with confidence, having not lost a match since October. And you know, it's one of those things that confidence just keeps getting higher and higher throughout the season. I mean, look at this lob right here. That's on the back foot. It's an amazing thing. Sets Mark up. Mark missed the forehand, but Hughes set it up perfectly.
And you think Coach Jim Kaufman has had something to do with that?
I will tell you, Jim Kaufman and Steve Baird are the reason that I won a few national titles. Jim worked with me for years on my volleys, and I know he's working with Powers and Hughes, and I was a little upset to see him on their side of the I guess, player box this morning, but I get it. He's been working with them for a while, but Jim's one of the best in the game when it comes to coaching the sport and playing the sport and helping out a lot of the guys.
And it's not they're not lobbing because they can't drive, just the opposite. It's building the point, and yeah, it's been fun to watch their rise.
And you can see how slowly Broderick Palmer are playing. I mean, Jared Palmer had a ball there he could have easily driven shoulder high forehand from the baseline and elected to lob it.
It'll be interesting as this match develops of whether he will start to have to take those drives, depending on how this first set goes, I think.
And Mark, what makes Broderick Palmer so tough?
They don't give you anything. You know, they're a team they're willing to stay out there for 6 hours. I'm convinced they booked their flights for a day after the final match so that they don't have to worry about flights. But you know, they don't give you anything, and they're so solid at the net. I mean, you can see it here right now. They're just going back and forth. Jared's got some of the best hands in the game, and Drew's going to look for that one cutter that he can hurt you on, and if you give it to him, he's going to make you pay for it.
But like you said, the ability of Hughes and Powers to lob higher and deeper takes away that shot.
Exactly right.
Broderick catches the nick, and that's 4 consecutive games for Broderick Palmer, and they lead 4-3 first set. Any other observations out there, Mark?
It's a big momentum game right there. I mean, that's I think one of the things is Drew and Jared have been here, and they've been here multiple times. It's the first time for Hughes and Powers, and I remember my first time playing in a national final. It's not the easiest of feelings to be underway.
It was on this court, wasn't it?
It was on this court.
It was with Mike Stulak, I
and
believe.
with Mike against Durant and Porter. So I've been in that situation. I know the feeling. I know the feeling of getting up early in a match and then all of a sudden being down 4-3, and they know it's gonna be a battle. I mean, they know that Drew and Jared were gonna be around for this entire match, regardless of what the score is.
Yeah, I remember the look on your eye when you were going on the court with Mike Stulak. You had the eye of the tiger. It's all about business.
I had some good advice before that match that said you never know when if you ever get back to this situation, so take advantage of it. And I took that to heart.
Was that from the 2009 finalist?
That was from Alex Benchila.
What a volley from Palmer. Few missed lobs from Hughes. He had some dips in his match with you guys today, Mark, didn't he? He had some ups and some downs.
I was hoping he was going to have a dip in the third set, but no such luck. He played some ups and downs, but I tell you, on big points, he came up big. He hit through the ball, and I think he'll do the same here as this match progresses.
Great volley from Broderick. Here's an example of how solid Broderick is in that backhand.
Oh.
What an exchange. But Mark Powers plays the game with just brazen court positioning, just has no fear of anybody.
We were talking about, I nicknamed them the screen climbers, because they're lobbing so well down the line and then splitting, and they're going halfway between the service line and the baseline looking for that down-up overhead and then spiking it. So they're just, they're playing with you almost.
Well, they won't be seeing too many of those down-up overheads today.
Right. No, I don't think we're going to see too much of that play because Broderick Palmer's, they're not going to let it happen.
And once again, a couple of balls Palmer could have driven, but elected to lob. Playing to their tempo.
You see that extra cut that Drew Broderick has put on the ball on his overheads in the last couple of years. He's really added a lot more spin. And then Palmer's flat overhead. Mark, talk to us a little bit about that. I'm always surprised when I see him hit it so flat so much. Not even just like a little brush across the back of the boys. So it's really like a pancake almost.
Yeah, and he's looking for placement on that. It's a good contrast to Drew's ball.
Yeah.
I mean, you get such a spin ball from Drew, and then all of a sudden the flat one can, oddly enough, throw you off.
And at this level, it really is about the placement. I mean, we're talking about couple of boards.
Couple boards, a little bit extra depth, change the pace slightly.
There's Palmer getting caught in the middle by Powers. We've talked about that.
30 all.
Just need to take a couple of balls behind Powers to keep him honest. Really big game right here early in the match, Jerry.
Oh.
Wow. That's confidence. 3-4, 30 all, Nationals final.
He's feeling it.
Yeah, he's got a lot of belief. Great blitz from Palmer. That's one of the things he does exceptionally well. Broderick will hit that ball that just clears the net in a descending manner, and Palmer follows it up with a blitz. Oh, great backhand from Broderick, way over on Palmer's side, gives them an opportunity to serve for the set. Break point. Great communication by Broderick. All of a sudden you can see how the tempo has slowed to a crawl.
Yep.
Great point. Surprising end, Jerry.
Little extra cut.
Mark, I asked Jerry this question earlier. I'm going to ask you the same one. Which team do you think has more belief?
I mean, you've got to think that Powers and Hughes, having not lost a match since October, have some serious belief. But I got to tell you, Drew and Jared have got to think that they're the favorites. You look, they've won the last two nationals. These guys, or three nationals, sorry. I was trying to take one away from Drew. You know, these guys play big matches well. You know, unfortunately, I've been on the opposite side of some of those big matches, and they stick around and they find ways. I mean, look, Jared's completely changed how he's taking Hughes's ball and that cutter coming into the deuce side now, and it's changed the outcome, or not the outcome, the whole set feeling right now.
Yeah, all week people asked me who I liked, and I said Broderick, Palmer, until they shake hands with somebody, are the favorites to win. What's happened the rest of the season is almost irrelevant.
Deuce!
That was a surprising miss there. This would be a big game for Hughes Powers to get out of with a hold.
Oh!
Good swing from Broderick. Right ball to hit, just fails to execute.
I tell you, Powers is so on top of the net, and he sees that ball so early.
Very Durant-esque, isn't it, with his forehand volley in the middle? Surprised Broderick hasn't taken one behind him, although really more for Palmer to do.
And it's that spin again, that cutter right at the body. That's what we saw more earlier in this set.
Huge
right
hold
at the
there.
body.
Huge hold for Powers. 4-all. Getting down to the business end of the set. Look at that volley.
That was surprised that Powers didn't go down Drew's line, though.
That's gone.
Mark, are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, no, you can see the line opening there, you know, on Drew, but I don't know if it's just I mean, Mark likes to take that ball at you or through the middle. He will go down the line, but definitely hasn't done it yet.
Beats him in transition there as Palmer's late to bail. And we've had yet another momentum swing, it appears.
Hughes and Powers win more points in transition, I think, than any team in the nation. They are phenomenal at it.
Well, that was an interesting switch in the backcourt. Obviously eager to get Palmer out of that backhand side.
And this is where they want to be. It's
What did we say, Jerry?
Yeah.
Find Palmer.
Yep, and Hughes hitting that breaker right deep in the court at Palmer's body, so he has to go back and to his right. So even if he gets it, he's pulled off the court, and then there's the screen climber. There we go.
Goodness.
Oh my
Oh.
God.
Whoa.
Oh! We got to have a replay on that.
Jared Palmer gives him the thumbs up as
That
John Hughes finishes the points by
is-
running around the net.
That is their
That's
play.
unbelievable.
We'll see if we can get a replay of that point. But, I mean, whew, talk about to stuff the momentum and then flip it around.
Boy, you can really bring it back to that forehand Broderick missed on break opportunity, and all of a sudden they'll be serving for the set.
Yeah, here we go. Let's take a look at that combination where John Hughes is just all over the bounce, the height of the ball, and just came straight down. Here it is again, and then on the blitz.
We missed the amazing shot off the side wire. Looked like he jumped off the side wire a la Mark Parsons. And Hughes will serve for the first set. Powers is just everywhere with that forehand volley at the net. Ball called out, confirmed by chair umpire Montalbano.
Love 15.
You know something about that serve, Mark. I know you've probably seen a little too much of it.
Tell you, Hughes is serving better this year than I've seen anyone serve. He's serving harder, and he's making that ball basically go off screens every time. There it is again with a good return from Jared. But you're having to chase it, and it's especially tough out of the ad corner because you're out of position then for that next ball.
So what would be the best shot to hit off of that?
I mean, it used to be step up and take it off the deck. The issue is he's hitting it with such pace now that you almost have no choice but to let it go through, and your partner's got to switch behind you, and you start the point from your opposite sides.
So you pretty much have to try to
Yeah, I
lob
mean,
it, right?
at the pace he's hitting it, it's I would be hard pressed to think who could take it off the deck and be able to drive it back with any force. I mean, even blocking it at that point with that much spin is very difficult. Dance move there from Jared.
Palmer lucky to get out of there without a loss of the point. Yeah, those are the misses you just can't afford to have. 15-40.
Surprised he didn't go back at Palmer.
Two break opportunities. And he catches the nick on the first one.
30-40.
Sloppy misses there from Hughes, although Palmer helped cause that one with the blitz, and we're back even at 5.
Jared Palmer serving.
Love.
There's your down the line ball. Unfortunately, caught the top of the tape.
Powers does such a good job of getting on top of that ball. That's a brilliant shot. Do you think he practices that one, Mark?
I'd like to know his percentage of making it if he does.
Missed volley from Palmer. You can count the number we'll see in the match. That a one hand.
He hesitated there. I'm seeing like a little chink in John Hughes right now.
That was a ball he could have spiked.
Yeah, he kind of changed his mind. I think he realized he shouldn't spike it from back there as he was mid-swing, and then it was too late to throw up a lob.
Little strategy conference from Broderick Palmer.
30 all, 5 all. It's always good to have a chat.
That's a dangerous shot for Palmer. Some of the athleticism on display from Hughes and Powers covering the net. Powers should have let Hughes hit that ball.
I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, what a volley from Powers. Bit of sloppy play continues from John Hughes. Powers with some encouraging words. Either that or he said start getting the ball in the court more often.
Game.
Serve from
Broderick
Palmer.
They lead the first get.
Powers will serve to stay in the first set. Mark, what do you attribute the ups and downs of John Hughes throughout the day as we've seen?
I mean, I think John's one, obviously, they're number one in the nation. He's one of the most solid players in the nation, and it's, you're trying to win your first nationals.
Yeah.
And I think that has, look, we play all year for this event. It's not like, the ATP where you've got 4 Grand Slams and, you're looking to win 1, 2, or however many of those. We play all year for this one weekend, and I think it puts a lot of pressure on a lot of people, and especially when you're trying to win your first one.
Mark Powers serving. 5-6 first set. Men's National Championships were at the Glenview Club. And you see it is Broderick Palmer's speed of play.
Another ball Powers could have let Hughes hit.
Love 15. 15 love. 15 love. Sorry. You were.
Great get from Broderick.
Oh, nice cover.
Great get from Powers. Great point. Hughes got his shot. Catches the top of the tape. Looks to me like they're getting away from the game plan a little bit. As
Yeah,
Powers
I
has
was-
stepped to the middle.
I was
hit a
just
few
thinking
more
the same
overheads.
thing. That's what they started early in the first set. Is getting Palmer to move back into his right, and they've gotten away from it.
And it's so difficult if you're a Mark Powers with all your ability and talent to let a ball that you can easily hit through to your partner. That's what having a game plan's all about. Get off the seam. Don't know there's a quicker player in the country than Drew Broderick. Your shovel shot, Jerry.
Oh. Mark, at the end of this rally, I want you to tell me how Mark Powers hits that cut dropper.
Hopefully that was directed at Mark Parsons.
Yeah, he was.
Have you ever seen me play, Jerry?
That was my next comment.
But I've heard that you're a fabulous pro.
Like the cut dropper, I always say I'm a really good at hitting them in clinic, but not really good at hitting them in matches. You know, those guys get underneath it, and it's as I tell people, if you're trying to do it, it's got to be a violent swing because you've got to basically catch very little of the ball, and you've got to hope that you can spin it in the right direction. Great ball there from Powers.
Catches the nick.
But we're just seeing more and more players hit that shot in the last couple of years.
It's become the norm. I mean, there's guys hitting it now. There's guys hitting spin overheads on their back foot. I mean, that just wasn't the case 4 or 5 years ago. You had a couple guys doing spin balls, and that was it.
Palmer gets caught blitzing, and will play a tiebreak to decide who's going to win the first set. Who do you like, Mark?
Can I tell you halfway through the tiebreak?
Who, you Lauren Mandel?
I tell you, look, I'm enjoying watching it, and it's...
That's a brave prediction.
I will... I'll go Jared and Drew.
Okay.
I think they've got a little momentum here. I think they... I think after being down a decent amount in the first here, they've been the more solid team down the stretch.
Not by much, but Hughes misses another lob.
Broderick Palmer.
The great lobbers miss more lobs, Mark? I mean, is that part of the bargain you have to make to lob deep?
Yeah, I think, look, height's such an important part of it. We always say the goal is to never lob long because, you know, you're still in the point if you're lobbing short. Now, with the way these guys can spin the ball, there could be probably some argument for that. But, you know, ideally you don't want to see them long.